And this gentleman who you're going to meet in just a moment is certainly that, represents that. So a little story, segue into why he's here today. So I do a lot of work with organizations, and one of the organizations I work with is Cargill. Cargill is a large food organization. Many of us don't know about them because they're a privately held company, but every piece of food, or many of our food items, are impacted by this organization. And I did a bigger game workshop for them a year or so ago. And the guy, the leader in the room said to me, "Wow, you are doing great work in our world. Thank you for doing it inside Cargill. You need to meet this guy, John Robinson. This guy is playing a bigger game off the charts." So of course I went home and said to Chuck, "There's this person come across my screen. Let's go check him out." And sure enough, this gentleman this morning is absolutely up to amazing things. So this morning, I introduced you a bigger game player that I've been so excited to meet, and I hope you are eagerly as excited to meet him as well. Please bang your hands together for John Robinson. I know, right? Inner woman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
I'm going to fall off the stage. Look at that. It's great to be here. It is wonderful to be sharing this time with you. I am going to grab that in a minute. Hope that didn't. I was backstage and I was hearing all the noise and knowing something was being handed out. I'm like, what is being handed out? That is giving so much pleasure. What could this be? It's not good. Or it is good. Whoopee cushions. Good, so they can make noise. I'm really excited to be here. I don't know, it's funny, you get told all the things that you do, and you think about all the things that you do, and you live day by day and try to do the best that you can, but when you look at it in perspective, you realize the lives that you impact and the people that you touch, and it's wonderful. So even just this morning at breakfast, you knew the level of enthusiasm here is exciting. So I'm really, really proud to be here. I'm proud to share some stories with you, and I want to share some stories about certainly my life and some of the events that have gone on in my life. But maybe more importantly, I want to leave some time at the end to have some questions and answers, because, boy, the way we learn from one another, the enthusiasm we get from one another comes in the questions and answers. So it's one thing to hear me tell my stories. That's okay, but it's more the questions and answers that I'll leave at the end that we really get to learn from one another, and that's where the love really happens. And so I'm going to leave some time to be able to do that and learn more from each other. I'm going to start off by asking you all a question and ask you, how many of you looked in the mirror before you left your room this morning? Raise your hand. What was it that you were looking for in the mirror this morning? Anybody? Hair? It's looking good. It's rocking right now. I like that. Teeth? No spinach in the teeth. You're good to go.
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste? Yep. Imperfections. Right before you leave your room, you leave your house, you go off to work, you go off to play, every day of your life. Right before you leave for the outside world, you're taking one last look at yourself and you're looking for what's wrong with you, aren't you? What is that doing to you? Right before you go off and you're about to change the world, you're looking in the mirror one last time and seeing, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? But what if you go to your best friend in life, your spouse, your mate, your significant other, whomever that is, and you say, how do I look today? What is it that they're going to say? Great. Right, great, fabulous. Why do they do that?
Because it's true.
Wait a minute. Sustainability? Yes, that's the real answer. Sustainability. Oh, I heard it here. It's because they love you. At the end of the day, they don't care if there's spinach in the teeth or the hair's the right way or not. Your best friend, your spouse, your mate, significant other sees you for who you are on the inside. They have stopped looking at you for what's wrong, and they have embraced and love who you are internally. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Imagine what we could do with ourselves if we start our day every morning. Yes, check for the spinach in the teeth. But then look in the mirror one more time before you go out into general public and say, what does my best friend love about me? And then you start your day. Imagine what we could do together if we start our day by seeing what's right with ourselves and not what's wrong with ourselves. Why am I asking you to do that? Because for the longest time, I could not look at myself in the mirror. I was uncomfortable with what I projected, who I am. Worked in video production for nearly 20 years, in television stations for 15 years, being asked to be on television, on video once in a while, cringing at how I look. But you know what? Through a series of events, a series of assessments, maybe some bold action, I realized, you know what? I am comfortable and confident with who I am today. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of the body that I've been given, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. And so I challenge you tomorrow morning, Monday morning, next week, next month, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror. I don't want you to see what's wrong with yourself. I want you to see what's right with yourself. And I want you to move forward with that in mind that day. Because I've had a lifetime of learning that the hard way, but proud to share that with you and living that example now today. The best way I've learned about myself is meeting people for the first time. You know, I learn more from myself meeting people for the first time, and I'm proud to share that with you. I'm going to share some stories of meeting with people for the first time, and I'm going to share some stories with you of some obstacles that I've had to overcome in my life. And you're looking at me right now, and you've got questions in your mind, and I'm going to answer some of those questions, and some of those questions are the obstacles that I've had to overcome. But at the end of some of these stories, some stories you may laugh, some stories you may cry, all of that's okay, but you'll have a better perspective of where we all are. And so I'm proud to share all that with you. Before I do any of that, I'll sort of take a step back and give you the little bit of the biography. My name is John Robinson, as was said. I'm a graduate of Syracuse University. I live in the capital region in Albany, travel all over the United States and the world speaking, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud to share these stories with people because that is my mission right now, and I'm proud to do that. I am married. Andrea and I have been married for 22 years. Today is our anniversary, so I'm proud of that. And I got the number right, so I'm happy about that. We are on our way up to Montreal, where she was born and raised, to celebrate our anniversary this weekend, so I'm proud to share that with you, because that is one of those unspoken questions that you have. If you see me on the street, you see me in business, you wonder to yourself, did he find somebody? And the very real fact is, yes, I'm blessed to have the relationship that I have. We have 3 children. We have a 25-year-old son, so you can do the math on the 22-year-old marriage and figure that one out. Hayden is a great young man, handful as a child, but a great young man. He is fighting forest fires in the west of the United States. He's a fire jumper. So he's jumping out of helicopters to put out forest fires. And so we are awfully proud of the work that he does and the challenges he faces, but you then, as a parent, you cringe at what is going on, but we're proud of him. We have a 17-year-old daughter who just graduated high school, and quite frankly, she's ruling our house with an iron fist. She needs to leave. It's time to go. How'd she go? So, you all have 17-year-old daughters, I guess I get that. Ariel is about to be a freshman at Simmons College in Boston, and we're awfully proud of her. She is so mature and such a delight in our family that we're proud to have her as well. And we have a 12-year-old son, Owen, who plays youth hockey and lacrosse, and he's all over the Northeast and 6 months a year skating. And we're proud to watch Owen. Owen is just about to become a 46er here in the Adirondacks. He has completed 39 of the 46 peaks over 4,000 feet at age 12, and so we're proud of him as well. And what is obvious, I am proud of the family that I have. And that is also something that I share with you because it's one of those unspoken questions. Did he find somebody and did he have a family? And the very real fact is yes, we have a family. And so we're proud to share that with you because that is one of the most important things in my life that I hold dear. I am also a business owner. I own a company called Our Ability, and I put it up here on the screen because my 12-year-old said I have to put my Twitter handle and my website. Our Ability, we mentor, connect, and inspire people with disabilities towards employment, and we're proud to do that. We do a variety of different things. We mentor people with disabilities towards employment. It is so vital. I would not be here without my education and my employment and the relationships in my life. They are a circle. One does not lead to the other necessarily, but they all support one another, and I realize for people with disabilities, this is so vital. And so I'm proud to be able to do that work. We do a lot of work inside corporate America with disability etiquette, how to speak to, how to work with people with disabilities, and self-identification programs. And I won't get into that, but the work is so very important. We do it because of this. I think we all fundamentally understand where the unemployment rate is in this world, in this country, for all of our citizens. The unemployment rate for the general population is somewhere around 5.5% right now. The unemployment rate, though, for people with disabilities is somewhere near 12%. And while we, I think, fundamentally understand the unemployment rate for people with disabilities is higher than the general population, when you take into consideration the fact that only 20% of people with disabilities are actively in the labor force. 4 out of 5 people with disabilities have given up, are not in the labor force, are not actively seeking employment. You realize that the actual unemployment rate for people with disabilities is somewhere near 70 or 80%. And so it becomes very important to evangelize what we're doing to be able to take bold action to try to help people find jobs. And that's what we do in our day job, and we're proud of that, and I'm proud to share that with you. We do it in a very specific way. We've created an online portal for people with disabilities to find employment. It's a LinkedIn for people with disabilities, and that's what we're doing on our day job, and we're proud of that. We do that because, as is obvious to all of you that can see me, I am a person with a disability. So I mentioned that I'm married, active in my community, and a parent, and graduate of Syracuse University, and a business owner, but I'm also a congenital amputee, a quadruple congenital amputee. I was born 46 years ago without the extension of my arms and my legs. And I think most of you can see me right now, but if you can't for whatever reason, my arms end at where your elbows are. So no elbow, no forearm, no hand, no wrist, no fingers. But I can tell you that I'm blessed to have the sensation of what it would be like to have hands. And this is part of that blessing part. I understand what it would be like to have hands, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. In the ends of my arms, I know what it would be like to move hands and wrist and fingers, because in my mind, I am moving the muscles and the nerves in the ends of my arms that would have turned into hands. And you can see that in the front row. You know that I'm moving the muscles. So I'm blessed to have that sensation. I wouldn't trade that. I know what it's like to point at you or make a fist or give the middle finger driving. I'm sorry, I'll do it over here. I know what it would be like to give the middle finger, and I wouldn't trade that for anything, as crazy as that sounds. I'm blessed to have the sensation. The ends of my arms, I have these fatty tissues that would have turned into thumbs. One on my left arm is bigger than the one on my right arm, but I know that because in my mind I'm moving my thumb right now. First time I met one of my college roommates, his name is Pat. Pat is one of the most successful people I've ever met in my life. He has a very high-profile job in the National Football League and a very dear friend. We've been friends ever since the day we met when we were 17 years old, freshmen at Syracuse University. Pat heard a rumor that I looked a little bit different. We're living on the same floor, and he knocked on my dorm room as I'm unpacking that first day, and he walks into my dorm before I say hello, and he walks in, barges in, takes a look at me, looks me up and down, and walks out. Thinking, all right, too bad it wasn't a girl, but okay, that's fine. We'll see what we can work with. Knocks on the door again a minute later, and Pat comes back in, and he says, John, I really want to take a look at you, and I want to really look at the end of your arm. It looks really weird. And before I can say, no, Pat, he's over, and he's touching, and he's grabbing the end of my arm. And he's grabbing what would have been a thumb, and he's now grabbing it and pinching it and folding it over and trying to pull it off me right now. And at this point, it's getting creepy, right? I don't know what's going on. And he goes, John, that feels awfully weird. It kind of feels like a marshmallow. I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, marshmallow, because I was thinking it was going so much worse than that. And he says, that's the marshmallow. So this has been the marshmallow ever since that day. Our kids now call it the marshmallow. I'm sure our grandchildren call it the marshmallow, all because of that first day. But then he says, as he's still holding it, by the way, he goes, look at the scar tissue around the marshmallow. When did your parents have that surgically attached to you after you were born? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I've seen TV shows about this. They reattach limbs. He goes, your parents must have had that surgically attached to you after you were born. I said, Pat, I was born with the marshmallow. Now I'm calling it the marshmallow. I was born with it. I don't believe you, John. They had that sewn on so that you can carry your books and carry your keys and open doors. He goes, I've watched you around today. I said, you're stalking me? I was born with this. Well, we're going to agree to disagree. I don't believe you. Well, we lived for 3.5 years together, and senior year, it's the night before graduation, and we're 8 guys living in a house, and we have a party on the night before graduation, and it's our last party, and it's also the last time that we'll invite our parents and our siblings. We have 60, 70 people in the house, and it's the last time we're all going to be together as a group. And it's a wonderful event. And we're all saying hello and goodbye to everybody else's brothers and sisters and parents. And I take a look over in the corner, and there in the corner, Pat has my mom and dad cornered. And I can't get over there fast enough. And I hear Pat say, Mrs. Robinson, tell me the truth. When did you have the marshmallow surgically attached to John? My mom doesn't miss a beat. She says, Pat, I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't you ever tell John this. We did have it surgically attached after he was born. I knew it, he says, and he comes running over and throws me to the ground and is pinching the marshmallow and trying to pull. And I look up from the ground at my mom and I said, Ma, why on earth did you do that? She said, I had to. It was so much fun. He believes it. I was born with it, I swear. My legs are different altogether. They're the lower part of your leg. Thank goodness. I have a foot facing forward. I can put on shoes. I can walk. I've seen quadruple amputees born with their feet facing backwards and the leg facing backwards, so the amputation happens immediately. Ankle, lower part of my leg, but no knee and no upper part. And if you see an x-ray of yourself, you know that your hip, ball, and joint fit snugly together. Mine do not. There's about a 2-inch gap from where the bone is in my leg and where my pelvis is. And there's nothing holding it together. And that's created a very interesting and painful dynamic. The interesting dynamic is this, that when I was meeting Pat for the first time, a freshman in college, I used to stand 3 feet 11 inches tall, or 9 3/4 Budweiser cans tall. And we had to test that repeatedly to see if I shrunk. And the truth of the matter is I have shrunk. I'm now 3 feet 9 inches tall. And it's all mostly because the bone is riding up into my leg area and there's nothing really holding it together. But you know what? I'm blessed to have this body. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I'm blessed to be able to share that with you. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. And I've learned this about myself. Learned to look at myself in the mirror for what I do have through these conversations of meeting people for the first time. And that's what's so very important. Another quick story. How many of you have a friend that can get you into trouble immediately? You know you've got that friend, right? One of my friends' name is Rob. Rob is another freshman that I met in college in 1986. And Rob has an amazing ability, even today, even in our late 40s, to get me into trouble whenever he wants to. But he comes to me at the end of second year in college, and he says, John, this is great. He goes, John, my parents have asked me to invite 6 of the guys that I've been speaking about this summer for a weekend to come to Cape Cod and swim and barbecue and play golf. And he goes, John, I'd really like you to be one of those 6 guys. He goes, I've talked to my parents about all of us, and they really would like to meet everybody. Would you like to come and meet? I said, yes, I would love that very much. Now, very selfishly, the reason I wanted to do that was because I went to junior high and high school in Manchester, New Hampshire. And my parents, every weekend in the summer, would drive us out to Hampton Beach into the ocean. And one of my favorite things to do is to get up to my neck in the ocean and let the waves throw me around every which way. I absolutely love it. I'm like a bobber on the water. Who knows where I'm going? No arms, no legs. I absolutely love it. But Hampton Beach is cold. It's like the 58-degree lake water that you just heard about, right? It's cold, and so I knew Cape Cod was a little bit warmer, and I said, Rob, I'd love to go swimming. I'd love to do this. This is great. So we meet there that weekend in July, and 6 guys, we haven't seen each other for all of 2 months, and you'd think we hadn't seen each other in years, and we're having a great time, and we get there to Rob's parents' house, and we throw our bags down, and we grab our towels, and we're about to go to the refrigerator to get something, and there's a note on the refrigerator that says, no, stop here, we're already down at the beach, we have food down here, come on down to the beach and go swimming. So we do that, 6 college guys, and we head down to the beach. Now, do you think 6 late teenagers say anything to the adults whatsoever on the beach? No chance. We go right by Rob's parents, walk right by them, and we get into the water. And I'm not thinking about anything other than, wow, the water is warmer, and yes, I'm up to my neck, and I'm letting the waves throw me around, I'm having a great time. And all of a sudden, I realize Rob and the other 5 guys are looking at me, and they're standing in a semicircle, and I hear Rob say, yeah, guys, that's what we need to do. We need to do this. And I look at him, and I say, what do you need to do? And he ignores me, and he goes, come on, guys, we're going to get in a circle around John, and we're going to float him on his back. And we're going to throw him as high in the air as possible. Ready, John? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Splash. Come on, guys. We can get him higher this time. Come on, John. Let's go. There's pictures of me 6 feet off the water line that they won't let me share with you. They're having a great time. After 25 minutes, I'm not having a great time, so I get out of the salt water and walk up to Rob's parents, who I haven't met yet, whose faces are like this. Are you okay? And the lifeguard comes running over and says, are you okay? Do you want me to get them to stop? Where were you 25 minutes ago? Now, you know that we must have looked awfully different, right? But we were also very comfortable, very content, very happy with ourselves. You know that meeting me for the first time for Rob's parents was quite dramatically different than any other experience. But you also know they didn't come running over and stop it. The lifeguard didn't come running over right away and end it. That we were comfortable and content and confident with who we were. Nothing was going to stop us. You learn the most about yourself and how you interact with your friends and your peers and the love that you have. And for my instance, in meeting people, meeting you for the first time. You see, you will remember me because of what I look like. I will not necessarily remember you. But it's a life of understanding that. And I want you to remember me. I want you to remember me for the stories that I share, for the love that I have for my family, for the passion that I have for helping other people. And if it's because I look a little bit different, that's okay. See, meeting people for the first time has taught me the greatest lessons in my life. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. The best lessons I've had in my life are from 5-year-old kids. How many of you have been around a 5-year-old in your life? Raise your hand. 5-year-olds will do and say anything that comes to mind. Look at the little man, Mommy. Ooh, the man has no hands, Mommy. Why does he have no hands, Mommy? And they run and jump and tackle and grab, and I'm the long-lost stuffed animal that actually moves. But when the 5-year-old says, why? What is the 15-year-old doing? What's the 25-year-old doing? But stopping themselves. What's the 55-year-old doing? You see, we have all the same questions in ourselves. We stop ourselves from asking them. When we could learn the most about ourselves and each other if we did ask the question, John, why were you born that way? That's where we can learn. That's how we can interact with one another. That's where we can take bold action, not only with ourselves, but with the world around us. That's how we can engage. See, meeting people for the first time is the most important lesson in my life. Now, I haven't always been perfect. I remember on a time on a busy city street in Toronto, Ontario, a young boy dragged his mother across the street. And Andrea and I are walking down the street, and I didn't really know what to do. And the young boy was really picking on me, and I stood there very still. And finally, when his mother turned away, I turned to him and I said, "It's because I didn't eat my vegetables." Andrea says, "You can't do that." I said, "I just did." And you know he went home and ate his Brussels sprouts, right? And beans. But it's how honest and forthcoming that you are, is how we do affect change in life. And that's the lesson that I'm happy to share. You see, meeting people for the first time has taught me the most important lesson in my life, and it's this. Am I facing an obstacle that you look at me different the first time you see me, the second time you see me? Or is it an opportunity to prove to you that I have something to offer? I have something to say. I choose to look at it as the latter. See, if you remember one thing from my talk this morning, I hope it's this. Oftentimes, opportunities are disguised as challenges. Oftentimes, opportunities in life are disguised as challenges. And we know it intellectually, don't we? We know that we have to play a bigger game when something is standing in our way. It's just, how do we do that? I'm here to tell you that for the longest time when I looked in the mirror, all I saw were obstacles. But I've learned how to deal with them. Through love and compassion and kindness of friendship and relationships and a better understanding of who I am as a person, I've learned how to deal with it. And that's what's so very important. What are some of the obstacles that I've had to deal with? The first one is driving. I drive a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. I love my pickup truck. I love watching you watch me get in and out of my pickup truck. My mom, at 5 years old, my mom told me when I was 5, she said, "John, when you're 16, we're going to buy you a car." What did my mom do right there? Goal, dream, future. Absolutely. Whether she knew that or not, or whether I certainly knew that or not, no, not at 5, but boy, do you think I ever let her forget that growing up? When I was 16, I said, "Ma," she goes, yeah, I know. 16 years old, I come around and she hands me the keys to her car, and in her car they had installed right-angle hand controls. And they found a driver's ed teacher who had right-angle hand controls in their car. And the man, his name is Paul St. Pierre, I'll never forget Paul. He drove 45 minutes to teach me to drive. And he pulled into the driveway one day and he said, "John," he goes, "I'm going to teach you how to use these, and these are going to be the greatest step towards your independence." And so I sat in the driver's seat that first day, and he goes, "John, I want you to push the metal bar in as far as it'll go." See, it's attached to the steering column. It's right near the turn signal, just a little bit below. And he goes, "I want you to push that metal bar in as far as it'll go. Can you do that?" And I did. And he goes, "Great, those are the brakes." I said, "That's probably important in driving." And he goes, "Now I want you to pull that metal bar in it down by your leg, and I want you to rev that engine." And I did. And he goes, "John, I want you to put your seatbelt on. We're going to go driving right now." Now? Now. We did our 8 hours of mandatory New Hampshire driving in 8 hours. I wasn't letting him out of that car once we got going. And the end of it, he goes, do you know what just happened? I said, no. He goes, John, this is going to be the most important part to your independence. Because you're thinking about the coffee shop and the movies right now, but no, it's your work, it's your education, it's your kids. And the truth of the matter is transportation and driving has been all and then some. See, driving wasn't an obstacle, it was an opportunity. Dressing, put your elbows together for me for a moment. Could you unbuckle the belt on your pants if you had to? Undo your tie if you had to? No, I couldn't either. It took me most of my teenage life to learn to teach myself to dress. If I'm dressed business casual with my shirt tucked in and an open collar shirt, it takes me 30 minutes to get dressed every morning. 10 of that just trying to tuck my shirt in every day. If I'm wearing a necktie, it takes me 45 minutes to get dressed every day. But why is that important? It's important because I want to be seen the way I want to be seen in that situation. I want you to see me the way I want to be seen. It could have been very easy for me to sit on the couch after high school, not go to college, wear sweatpants and a t-shirt, and collect Social Security disability. I did not want to be that. It could have been very easy for me to be one of the 80% in the unemployment number for people with disabilities. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to teach myself to drive and dress and get educated because I wanted to stand here as a business owner. And that's what's so very important. I'll give you another one. Another great opportunity. You remember the first time you rode a bicycle? Older brother or sister pushing you, hoping you fall, really? Seriously, secretly? Maybe a parent pushing you from behind and running you behind you, hoping that now that the training wheels are gone, you're going to be okay and you're going to pedal your way through. I can remember the time my dad taught my younger sister how to ride her bike. I was sitting on the front porch of our house holding a football and realizing I'm never going to have this opportunity. I can tell you the times that Andrea taught all three of our children how to ride their bike. Again, I'm sitting on the front lawn watching Andrea teach our kids how to ride a bike, realizing I'm not going to have that opportunity. Had the opportunity to go to London to see the Paralympics in 2012, and it was a wonderful experience. And I got to witness adaptive sport that I never had the opportunity to participate in. Adaptive sport is going to be a great thing now and in the future for people with physical differences, and I just didn't have that opportunity. I played golf, but it was just because my dad cut down a seven iron and taught me how to play golf, but all these other things I couldn't do. In London, I saw wheelchair rugby and wheelchair basketball and hand cycling and a whole bunch of sport that I didn't ever get a chance to participate in. And Andrea asked me if I would go take a look at some adaptive sport equipment when I returned from London, and so had an opportunity to go to see some sit skis with an organization near where I live. And I truthfully am afraid of heights, being 3'9". I have no interest in being on a chairlift, so I'm not ever going to do any downhill skiing. But I was very kind, and I said, I'd love to come look at the sit skis at this organization. And so I did, and I went to the organization, and there was 30 or 40 sit skis in the back of a shed, and there in the back of the shed was a 3-wheel recumbent hand cycle. And I realized, wow. Without asking permission, I walked over to this hand cycle and jumped up onto the seat and started to pedal that hand cycle out of the shed into the driveway. For the first time in my life, I'm doing what I never thought I'd be able to do. I get it back, and the woman that runs the organization said, would you like to take the hand cycle home and try it for a while? And I said, very much. Put it in the bed of the truck and drive home and get it out of the truck and start to drive the 1-mile loop around our neighborhood and teach myself how to ride a bike. And before I know it, my 2 younger children are on either side of me and riding their bikes, and they're laughing their heads off, teaching me how to pedal, and I am crying my eyes out, realizing I never thought I'd have this opportunity. And we get back home, and there's Andrea in the bottom of the driveway with a book in her back pocket, and she says, oh, John, I'm so proud. Now, she says, John, I want to take a trip with you. I'm thinking umbrellas, I'm thinking beaches, I'm thinking... oh, I'd love to take a trip. Where are we going? And she says, no, no, no. She says, I've always wanted to take a trip. Now, what you have to understand about Andrea is she is a 46er. She's done half of the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. She's run 8 marathons. When she says take a trip, she means be physically active. That's not for me. And I said, oh, okay. And she says, John, I'd like to take a bicycle trip. Wouldn't it be great to take a bicycle trip with the family? And I'm thinking, oh, that'd be wonderful. I said, sure. I said, I've just done the 1-mile loop around the neighborhood. We could do it again. No, I'm thinking something bigger. She says, I'm thinking something bigger. And I'm like, all right, what, maybe something down by the Hudson River. There's a nice 4-mile loop down there. And she goes, no, I'm thinking about something bigger. She pulls a map out of her back pocket. She goes, there is a bike path all along the Erie Canal. What? You mean like upstate New York? She goes, yeah. I said, how long is that, like a couple hundred miles? She goes, no, it's 350 miles from Buffalo to Albany. You can do it, John. I can't do that. She says, John, don't you tell everybody in the talks that you give that they can overcome whatever stands in their way? Did you listen to me? Wouldn't it be a great opportunity to raise awareness and inspire other people with disabilities, she said. So in October of 2012 through June of 2013, she put me on a training program. And on June 23rd, 2013, we left Tonawanda, New York, on the trail. And for 17 days, we had a plan that we were going to cross upstate New York the 300-plus miles in 2013. We had events set up that we would meet people with disabilities along the way, and we would engage with the community. And day one was an amazing day. We got 22 miles down the road. It was 90 degrees and wonderful day. And at the end of day one, you realize you have 16 more to go. And at the end of day two, we're supposed to be our longest day, 27 miles. It's now 95 degrees, and it's not on asphalt anymore, which is what we had trained on. It's on stone dust. And at the end of day two, I'm dehydrated, and I'm tired and bleeding and upset. And we get to Albion, New York, and there in Albion, New York, are 350 people with developmental disabilities waiting for us. And they said we were their inspiration. They were my inspiration. We didn't stop. We made it all the way to Albany on 17 days later. And we got to Albany, New York, and we're saying our goodbyes. And a young boy that I know in my town who has a disability came up to me and he said, Mr. Robinson, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, Luke, I'd be honored. And he goes, Mr. Robinson, when you guys do this in 2014, can I join you? I said, Luke, you didn't speak to Andrea, did you? So there we are in 2014. Doug Hamlin is my business partner. Doug Hamlin did a third of every day in 2013, and he said, darn it, I'm not going to let the man with no hands and no arms beat me, and so he went out and bought himself a brand new bike. Doug is a quadriplegic. He broke his neck 27 years ago on a trampoline. He worked and ran and owned a business, and he sold that business, and now he helps me with Our Ability. But he also has become a very good friend, and so Doug last year got on his new bike, and he did every one of the 363.4 miles. And he said, John, you inspired me to be better. And he inspired me to be better. And so this is the beginning of when we left Tonawanda, New York last year to begin our journey in 2014. These are the two most important people on our journey, and that's my wife, Andrea, and Doug's wife, Pam. We would not be there without the two of them. They are our support staff emotionally and physically. They are our keepers. One of us is always at the front, one of them is behind, making sure that we know where we're going. They are always on the lookout for good food and maybe some New York State beer once in a while, and so we could not do it without them. This is an example of some of the people that we meet along the way, and we see groups every day. Groups of people with disabilities, groups of community leaders that want to be inspired, want to be involved. This is Chittenango, New York. This is where the Wizard of Oz was written. And I sing Follow the Yellow Brick Road in my head every time I'm in Chittenango. But unlike Dorothy, every time we go through Chittenango, New York, it rains. And so it's also the worst of the trail in Chittenango, and this is what it looks like. And when your butts are 1 inch off the ground on a bike, when it rains, I mean you get wet. And so when we get off the bike finally, we are covered in mud and dirt and stone and goose poop and everything you could possibly imagine. But you know what? It's worth every minute of it. It's worth it because of this moment. In 2013, we were invited to an event. We were invited to an event to celebrate Ryan Chalmers. Ryan had won a gold medal in London, the same games that I was at. He's a wheelchair racer and lives in Rochester, New York, and they asked us if we would go and celebrate the event with Ryan, and I had met him in London, and I wanted to do that. And we got there, and we weren't thinking very much, but when we got there, we met these two little boys. And this is the moment you realize what you're doing is the right thing. Because these two little boys don't look up to LeBron James or Tiger Woods or whatever athletes they want to think about. They look up to Ryan Chalmers. They look up to us. And they were so proud to show us their ride, their wheels, how they tricked them out, the lights that they had, the face paint. They said, we can't wait to do the journey when you do it again in 10 years. No, you guys can lead it. Absolutely not. Obstacles. You can overcome them. And friendship. And it's the friendship that becomes so very important. Isn't it the friendships in life that help us through? Or is it the ice cream? I'm not sure. Obstacles. They are opportunities for success. They are opportunities for self-motivation. They are opportunities to assess your life where you are and to take bold action. They are opportunities for you to look at yourself in the mirror and see how great we do have it and how we can make it better. At the beginning of all this, I tell you all the things that I am. I'm also a child. So I'm married and a parent and a business owner, but I'm also a son. I'm the son of David and Priscilla Robinson. My mother and father, my dad is a retired Episcopal priest. So my dad was very active in the community just by the nature of his job. My dad was the external force in my life, ran for school board to make sure that I got educated, took me to the doctors in New Jersey to get fitted with artificial arms and legs every 6 months, fought with the school to make sure that they put my artificial arms and legs on every day. My mom was the internal force. You're going to sit still in church. You're going to sit up straight when you're at the dinner table. You're going to eat. You're going to clean your room. You're going to do your homework. You're going to have a smile on your face. You're going to be a good boy. My mom was that force internally to make sure that I did what was expected of me. My dad was that external force making sure the world did what they could around. My mom would tell me every day growing up, she'd say, John, you were just like I am. And I'd say, no, Mom, I'm not. I'm just like Dad. She said, no, you watch. You're just like I am. Boy, was she right. Andrea and I get married, and Andrea, we already have Hayden, and we get married in 1993. I'm doing the 20 years now, 22 years, wait a minute, 1993. We do 1993, and we're proud of the young family that we have already, and my parents don't ask the question, but they wonder when you're going to have a grandchildren, when they're going to have the grandchild. And so we're living in Syracuse, New York at the time, and we're newly married, and my mom and dad were living in Manchester, New Hampshire still at the time, and they're traveling now. They're enjoying the fact that the kids are gone, and they're enjoying their life and they're traveling to Europe and they're doing all the things that they had wanted to do. I got a phone call one day, and not too long after we were married, and phone rings and my dad calls and says, "John, we just got back from London and it's all good. We had a great trip, but your mom was tired at the end and she fell a couple of times, and so we came home early." My mom gets on the phone and says, "Don't worry about it, John. Everything will be all right. I got a little tired, and we're going to go see the doctor, and everything will be okay." And I said, "Mom, just walk me through what happened a little bit." "Don't worry, John. We're going to go to the doctor. Everything will be okay." Phone rings 3 weeks later, and my dad gets on the phone and says, "I think you should speak to your mom." And Mom gets on the phone and says, "John, I don't want you to worry, but we just met with the doctor, and don't worry, we're going to get through this, but they just diagnosed me with..." And I said, "Mom, please don't say Lou Gehrig's disease." "John, they diagnosed me with Lou Gehrig's disease. But don't worry, we'll get through it." There's no getting through Lou Gehrig's disease. So for 2.5 years, we drive up every other weekend to New Hampshire to see my mom. And in that 2.5-year period of time, we have Ariel, and my mom gets to meet her granddaughter. One day we're near the end, my mom pulls me aside and she says, "John, I want to give a gift, a christening gift to Ariel. Do you have any suggestions?" And what she was really saying is, "John, I want to give a gift to my granddaughter that I'll never know." I said, "Mom, you could give Ariel the greatest gift that you gave me every day of my life." She said, "What's that?" I said, "Mom, on my bedroom wall, you made me a needle point, and you hung it on my bedroom wall every day I lived in your house, and I read it to myself every day." And she smiled and she said, "You did?" And I said, "I absolutely did." I said, "If you give Ariel that gift as well, I'll make sure she reads it, and it will serve her well." And she did. The day she was christened, we opened that package and there was that gift. What was that needle point saying? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change these arms or these legs. I cannot change Lou Gehrig's disease. The courage to change the things I can. I can get you to listen to me. I can realize I learned more from my mother dying with a disability than I've ever had living with a disability. I can make dramatic and impactful change in my life. And that saying ends with the wisdom to know the difference. Be wise. You have it within yourself to make whatever change you want in your life, to take bold action, to look at yourself in the mirror tomorrow morning for who you are and not for who you are not. Thank you very much for listening. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. I would absolutely love your questions for 5. I hope we're okay on time. Are we okay? Thumbs up on time. I would love to have your questions, as I had said at the beginning. It's one thing hearing myself talk, but I'd rather hear from you.
Also, can we make this one work? Sorry, Nate.
It's activated. Whatever's activated in you, just let it out. And I know John will interact with it in any way that'll serve. So, any thoughts? Yeah, there we go. Hang on.
I would just love to know more about your parents. Were they always so?
They were pains in the butts.
But from the get-go, did they ever, feel sorry for you, or were they always so empowering and so comfortable with who you were?
My parents, put on a great external face. My parents were strong-willed. But you can only imagine the toll that it took on my dad and my mom. You know, my dad internalized that and realized that it was very hard. You know, went through times of self-doubt. As a priest, went through crisis of faith because of. My mother hit the world head on. You know, she was angry for the first 4 days, and then, all right, we're gonna do this. They were exactly the mix that I needed. Absolutely. Their friends in life gave them the foundation to be who they were, allowed me the foundation to be who I am. Not perfect people. I'm not. None of us are. But when you realize what they went through, I can remember, you know, before Andrea and I have Ariel, realizing what my mom and dad must have gone through on that night.
I have a question. I'm trying to figure out how to ask it. When you've worked with a lot of people, I assume, with various kinds of disabilities, and so when somebody comes out of a long-term illness, no longer able to do what they were able to do before, and maybe I think at choice on how to choose to be the rest of their lives or how to live with that disability, and they choose to identify primarily as a survivor, but not as a thriver, and to stay on disability for fear of if they really can't do anything, how to help. I mean,
you got to find the surrounding people around this person have to find the inner strength to get them to see who they really can be. And it is not easy. And you need support to do it, and they need support to do it. And the very real fact is, because that number is so high, it may not work.
right.
But it doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't take bold action, to use the sign. Because what's the alternative? Give up? No. That's not why we're on this planet. It won't be easy. And you need somebody to talk with.
Oh yeah, I have lots of great people to talk with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But it
absolutely.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
don't give up. Keep trying. Because it may not be the image that you want, it may not be the image that they want, and it may never be what it was before, but there's some seed of why they're still in this life. There's some plant there ready to grow. But they're not there yet.
Right. Thanks.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm curious, you said that your dad took you to New Jersey to put on artificial limbs. Why do you choose to, there must be a story in there for why you choose to not have.
Yeah, the prosthetics were really a challenge growing up. No knees, so my knees were hinged, my elbows were hinged. If I fell down, I really couldn't get back up. I got pretty good at walking in them, and I got pretty good at moving the elbows and the hooks. But the fact, because I'm symmetrical, you know, when I gave up the artificial legs at 12 years old, I wanted to throw the Nerf football around, right? I wanted to hit the golf ball. I wanted to shoot baskets. I wanted to be able to go up a step. I could do that without. Now, I'm dramatically shorter. That made the high school dances a lot harder. And that was a worry to the school that I went to. But you know what? I am so much better off without, because I'm symmetrical and because I was born this way. I think my parents did the right thing in trying it for all those years. They were only doing what they thought was right. But I am way better off without. Now, if I were 12 now, the advancements are better, but I still wouldn't be able to feel that grape that I could hold. I can now. I don't think it would be any different.
I know there's some, there are people that I know who are like, they're deaf, and they relate to, they don't want people to look at them like there's something wrong.
Right.
They're deaf.
Right.
So trying to have a cochlear implant
Yep.
is like it's making them not okay.
Yep.
I was just curious whether, as parents and as support systems for people that we know, people that do have disabilities, what is helpful and what isn't?
I think it's helpful to recognize the difference, but not to dwell on it. The disability never defines who I am, unless I want it to. But it is a part of me. You know, people who are deaf, Andrew and I have two really good friends whose children are both deaf. You know, it doesn't define who they are. They're still going through that process. But it's a part of who they are. And to recognize that it doesn't define me, but it is part of me. And it's a good part of me, not a bad part of me. And I think that's something that we all have to recognize. And we're getting there. We will continue to.
First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to get dressed to share your story with me today.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
The alternative is to be naked up here, so I didn't think I should do that.
And I'd like to
At least I got jeans on today.
I'd
So
like,
it's a big-
I'd like to acknowledge probably had more teaching than you know about your kids watching every day for them riding the bike. So I think you had a part in playing that. I'd like to ask you if you could share what honest talk between, say, your mom and you were at a young age. If there was, you know, you talked about being honest about who you are, and if you could just share maybe what that looked like.
At what point? At what age?
Whatever, you know, whatever your earliest recollection of you know.
Of my mom? Of us talking about it? I remember one night that a very good friend of theirs was about to have a baby, and I was probably 16, and realizing what they must have gone through. For whatever reason, it hit me at 16 that it must have been a traumatic moment. We were at the dinner table, and the couple was there, and Lisa was pregnant, and Mom and Dad were there, and I happened to be there for whatever reason by myself. My sister wasn't there. And my mom was going through what it was like that night. And she never, ever, and I mean ever talked about it. And so realizing that was painful. And realizing that was such a close friendship to do that. That opened this door for us to have, you know, talk about some of that a little bit, as much as she ever would.
And just like, and to my question was like, what do you remember her saying? Like, hey, you can get out of bed and dress yourself. Like, did that start from?
Yeah, she didn't let anything slide. So there, I mean, you know, vacuum. You do your chores. You get dressed. You go get your homework done. You know, it was very much like that. She grew up on a farm here in upstate New York. Daughter of a dairy farmer, the oldest child of a dairy farmer. You know, there's no other way. You make your own food. You grow your own food. You go to church on Sunday. You probably raise hell at night, and you know, that was kind of how she lived. And boy, were we expected to do that. That was great for me. I mean, I'm sure it tortures my kids now, but that was great for me. And I needed that. You know, if Mom had been different, I don't know where I'd be.
We'll do one more here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I was wondering if you could share some of your deep well of wisdom around invisible disabilities. We have a son who's 25 and thriving,
Yep.
but has an invisible disability in the form of a learning disability.
Yep.
And you speak eloquently of having to accept what you have before you can really move forward fully. I've turned my life's work into working with people who have this invisible disability because of my experience with our son.
Yeah.
And I have difficulty at times getting young people to really embrace what, from your standpoint, with the wisdom that you have, can you share with all of us?
Well, 71% of disabilities are invisible. You know that. You don't. They're hidden, so you can hide them if you choose to. our greatest work is trying to get both the businesses to understand that 71% are invisible, and to get the individual with a hidden disability to be willing to stand up and be present to who they really are. That is our greatest challenge. Your 25-year-old is on a continuum. They're going to be better off when they're 35 than when they're 25, but they're on a continuum of learning that. We, the rest of us, need to understand that. I couldn't give you this talk if I were 25 years old. I just couldn't. I wouldn't be there. It takes all of us time to learn who we are. Just to understand that and allow them the space to go through the anger of having, the how to deal with having, and then the acceptance. And if you can allow that space to be there, then their understanding of themselves will grow and mature. It's not always easy, but you especially allow that space. And the rest of us around anybody that's struggling with that. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Oh, you guys can hear me. So John's book is in the bookstore. It's called Get Off Your Knees. A story of faith, courage, and determination. And boy, are you not a role model for that. And I just want to say, I was sitting over there, and they're centered, and then they're centered. I don't think I've ever been around a more centered person who operates from such a grounded, I get what this is about, called life. Your story is amazing, but there's some way that you just sort of capture the essence of what it means to be a soul-based human. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your message. Thank you for turning it into this work, because I want you all to know John's company is the video production company of The Bigger Game.
So, thank you for allowing me the space to share the story.
Yeah.
This is the energy in here today is fantastic.
Yeah.
So thank you all.
And here's how we're going to end. So it's Andrea, are you in the building? You come on down, girl.
No, it's not my Andrea.
Oh no, different Andrea.
Different Andrea.
Well, there's a lot of Andreas. All Andreas, come on down.
Don't come down right now.
Is Andrea?
No, I don't see her.
Oh no.
She's out probably
Okay.
yelling at
Here's
one of the kids.
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this anyway. Okay. So I'm gonna have you stand up, if you would. So we're gonna sing Happy Anniversary.
Excellent.
But we're not going to just sort of do the happy anniversary, right? No way. So some of you know the work of Benjamin Zander. He does this famous thing around you bring your whole body, your whole soul, everything you got to the happy anniversary song. It's body, it's soul, it's from your groin, it's from your butt, it's from your elbows, it's from every part of us. Okay? And Andrea's going to hear it, so super loud. Wherever she is on the campus, she's going to hear this.
Well, I got tape of it too, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, you're going to have to play this back. Yeah.
Make it her phone ringing. Answer.
There you go. Perfect. All right. So on a count of 1, 2, 3. Ready?
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
They're off to Montreal. Wish them well on your beautiful anniversary weekend in Montreal.
We'll have fun.
And we're off to a break.